There's no education about the menstrual cycle, our hormone, our fertility, our menopause, nothing. There is no right answer. Nobody has the God honest truth when it comes to menopause, and anybody who says this is it is lying to you because they don't know. Listen to your body. If you have the symptom, don't stop until you can finally get them relieved. Follow your intuition.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Hot Flash Health Podcast, where we're dishing out unfiltered truths about menopause with a side of sass and a sprinkle of crass. Get ready to dive into the wild world of mood swings and all the other joys of being a queenager. This ain't your grandma's podcast. We're here to talk about our passions, our fears, our desires, all while navigating this roller coaster ride of menopause. So grab a glass of wine or 3, kick back, and let's ride this hot flash wave together. I'm Courtney Mamusha, and alongside me is my fabulous co-host, Dawn Fable. We are just 2 outspoken gals who aren't afraid to say it like it is. Now let's kick off today's episode. Dawn, why don't you go ahead and introduce our deck?
Hold on to your hot flashes, ladies, because we have got a hormone powerhouse in the house today. Meet Dr. Amy Beckley. She is the founder of Prove, which science meets self-care. She is a true badass created for women by women. What a fucking concept. Featured on the Today Show, Forbes, Time Magazine, featured as the best family tech product by parents.com, and recognized as the top 25 most influential Colorado entrepreneur right in our backyard. An all-around badass. Amy is not just a PhD scientist. She has been through the ringer herself, dealing with fertility struggles due to hormone imbalances. And after cracking the code on progesterone and fertility, she founded Prove to give women a reliable way to understand and manage their hormones. Fast forward to perimenopause, like all of us, and guess what? Same hormone imbalances. So Amy has expanded Prove to help women like us feel like ourselves again during this wild ride. So we're about to talk about hormone testing, peri mysteries, brain fog. We're looking at you, stress. Who has stress? And how to get the answers without Googling yourself into panic. So if you are ready to take control of your body's crazy rhythms, let's dive in. Welcome, Amy. We're so happy to see you.
I'm so excited to be here. You guys are so cute.
And we're fun, damn it.
We promised you tequila last time we were on, so
know.
it's a shame that we're all not having a happy hour in tequila, but
Tequila lunch.
Come. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, Amy, you're known as the hormone expert these days, but let's get a little personal. How did your own hormone struggles with fertility lead you to create Prove? And when was that light bulb moment where you just thought, hey, I need to fill this gap for women?
Yeah, I went through 7 miscarriages, 3 years of infertility, 2 rounds of IVF, and $40,000 just to find out that I had a progesterone deficiency. It was like, first baby made me crazy, about to jump off a ledge and took my life savings. And my other baby was a $10 generic prescription. I just had to have the right information and education to advocate for myself. And the right diagnostic tools weren't available. And I basically told all my family and friends, after I'd already been successful, because nobody shares they're dealing with infertility at the time. It's just too hard of a struggle. So after I was on the other side, I said, yes, I'm 1 in 8. I dealt with infertility, recurrent miscarriage. And the number of people that came in like privately to DM me or PM me, whatever it is, I'm too old to know the lingo. We're all struggling with the same thing and just didn't have education and answers. And I would help them one by one, like educate them and talk to them. Like I had just been through so much. And finally I was like, shit, this is stupid. Like, why don't I just invent something to help people like track progesterone at home so they can advocate for themselves? Why am I just educating one at a time? Let's elevate all women, and all women should have this education.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you first and foremost for sharing your vulnerabilities. And I'm so sorry that you, like many women, have gone through this struggle. And there are so many barriers for us as women, and such a lack of education around this. And of course, then you have big pharma and physicians who are dismissing you get in the way. So kudos to you, girl, for embracing what you had gone through and helping other women, because I have no doubt in my mind that there are hundreds and thousands of women who you have helped in your endeavors. We're so fortunate to know you and to be able to share your story with our listeners. So we're hearing a lot about perimenopause and menopause these days, which, by the way, it's about time. For women starting to wonder if they're in the peri phase, right? Can you break it down for us in simple terms as it pertains to your knowledge? What should we know about this? Because I think so many women out there, are questioning, like, is it me? Am I crazy? Do I have ADHD? Am I in menopause? Am I a raging bitch? Or do I just want a divorce? Or maybe it's menopause. Help us understand what we're going through in your experience and all of your knowledge around this.
Yeah, so you're not crazy. Hormones are a bitch, not you. And basically, what menopause is you have ovaries, and ovaries are designed to create eggs so that you can bring life into the world and be pregnant and procreate. Somewhere around the age of 50, you just stop releasing eggs, and that's what's called menopause. It's the average age is 51 in the US. And so perimenopause is that time before menopause. And so what happens is your ovaries just kind of stutter. They just like peter out, but it's not like, oh, they're making eggs and then one day they're not. So it's like, oh, maybe I'll do a little here, a little there. And so you get these, so your ovaries make hormones. They make estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Those are the three main hormones that they make. And so if your ovaries stop working, your hormone level is like in the toilet. It's like gone. And you have receptors for these hormones on every single cell in your body, your bones, your heart, your brain, everything. Not just your ovaries, not just your uterus, but like everything. And so since your ovaries stop functioning, the hormones are like this roller coaster and they get imbalanced and your body's like, whoa, what the hell is going on? And so that's where you're getting the symptoms is your hormones are changing and they're just all over the place. Your hormones are different than like your girlfriend's right next to you. You might have been born on the same day, but they're totally different depending on where they're at. And so, this like mood swings is actually the first symptom that a lot of women have, that like the bitchiness, the irritability, they're like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. And that's because your body's not making progesterone, my favorite hormone. I didn't make enough. I couldn't conceive. I didn't make enough. I turned into a bitch. And it's because you have receptors in your brain and you're not making the progesterone and they just start to act differently and you get this imbalanced feeling. And so it can manifest different ways because hormones are just all over the place.
It's crazy. And thank you for that explanation. I have had 3 women in the past month, 2 very dear friends of mine, who have said the same thing to me. And that is, I just cannot find joy right now. And it breaks my heart because these are people that are larger than life and so full of joy. And I was watching one of the episodes of the M Factor yesterday, the new documentary, and they had that exact statement. And so to hear someone like you, who is so renowned and not only had their own personal experience in this, but talk to so many different women that are experiencing those range of emotions because of the many hormones that are imbalanced in our body, and for us to feel dismissed and so confused as to why we can't find that. It's almost refreshing, to hear other people and hear your take on this, that your emotions are all over the place and it manifests in different ways for people.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm one of those lost my joy too. So
I mean, there's 2 ways to approach menopause, and this is you can either treat the root cause or you can treat the symptoms. And the way society has been treating women is treating the symptoms and not the root cause. And so, like, of 100% of women that go through menopause, only 14.7% of them get the actual diagnosis that it's menopause. 100% of them have it, less than 15% are getting that diagnosis. And instead, they leave with antidepressants. They leave with, that's the most common, is antidepressants, because it's the mood things that brings them in. Maybe, GLP-1s for weight issues, sleep medications if they're not sleeping. But it's like, stop treating the symptoms and start looking at the root cause of why this is happening.
Go from there. I mean, I do feel that, right? Like hot flashes are so widely talked about, vaginal dryness is so widely talked about. But when it comes to sleepless nights, brain fog, weight gain, those are only like now starting to gain some momentum. So it's hard when I think we're all feeling crazy all the time and don't know why we have these mood swings and why we're gaining weight and whatnot and whatnot. I know that these are all hormonal imbalances, but there's a lot about just dealing with life stress. Do you have any thoughts on how we can better manage the world around us with everything going on internally?
I want to address this hot flashes and vaginal dryness. These are symptoms due to low estrogen. Women typically, good estrogen, progesterone, good estrogen, low progesterone, and then both low. The timing on this, and everyone's different, is about 42 to 46 is the low progesterone area. And then not till like 48, 49, you get into the low estrogen area. And so if you're like, oh, do you have any hot flashes? No. Okay, you're not in menopause. You had like 8 years of your life that you're low on hormones and imbalanced, and no one's paying attention to you. And these are the mood swings and everything like that. So I just want to address that we should stop thinking about menopause as vaginal dryness and hot flashes, because those are like the last things. Like, we should be thinking about it way in the beginning.
Yeah, that's a
Now I
great point.
forgot what the question was.
Well, really quick before we dive back into the question, all of these hormones can be really confusing, right? Do you have a cheat sheet, like someone who is just dealing with hormones all of the time, not only your own hormones, but other women's, and creating a true product that helps you navigate through imbalances in these hormones? Do you have a cheat sheet or a simple way of really explaining the main hormones and what they do and what they don't do?
I mean, we sell a product called Empower. It's a perimenopause test, and it tracks these hormones across the cycle. And what we do is we first educate about what estrogen is and what progesterone is and what a normal cycle looks like, what you stage of menopause you're in, and what your cycles probably look like, and then what happens when you're all the way in menopause. Because you can't make a significant amount of estrogen or progesterone if you're not ovulating. And so it's really about ovarian function. And so we just try to teach women what that is, right? You can't make these hormones if your ovaries stop working. And when that stops being produced, that's the issue. And so we try to explain it. I mean, I have to tell my middle school teachers, stop teaching about domestic violence every single Wednesday. Can we talk about the menstrual cycle and hormones for a minute? That's going to impact every single one of these kids, and nobody talks about it. There's no education about the menstrual cycle, our hormone, our fertility, our menopause, nothing. And their medical professionals don't get this education. 1 in 4 physicians do. That means 3 out of 4 don't. That's insane to me, that something we deal with every single day of our lives, no one ever teaches us. I mean, my son was like, this is stupid. I know what a nucleus of a cell is, but they don't teach me about puberty. It's insane.
Yeah. Home ec, whatever happened to that? Like, let's have some.
Yeah. So we try to do very basic knowledge. This is estrogen, this is progesterone, this is what happens when you make it and when you don't make it. And we try to correlate those hormone levels with the symptoms they're experiencing to enable them to have better conversations. It's not like you don't have to be in menopause to start HRT. You can start it way earlier and just do progesterone only therapy, or you can do a low dose estrogen or whatever. But if you don't have this education, you don't know what it is, and you don't have the ability to have a good conversations with your medical professional, you're leaving it up to them. And that's a scary thing, because it's your health. You are in 100% control of this. And if you want something to happen, you have to drive it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go through a lot that we all have to be advocates for our own health and the podcast, and really work from the inside out to fix some of the issues that we're going through. I mean, I know you just talked about Proves Empower perimenopause test kit, which is awesome. I've seen so many people now doing more searches for at-home hormone testing. So perfect timing. Can you tell us a little bit more about your test? I know you take a unique approach with it, and like, why did you decide to get into the space? I mean, I know you have a passion for hormones, so it just seemed like a great fit.
Yeah, so we lived in the fertility space for 7 years, and we really wanted to understand the menstrual cycle because it's not typically a timing issue why women can't conceive. It's a hormone balance, it's they're unable to support the pregnancy. And we just learned so much about the menstrual cycle, and we realized that we had women in their 40s that were trying to get pregnant. They're actually in their first stages of perimenopause. And what we were learning from that group and how to optimize their cycle, why don't we apply this to women that are going through perimenopause? And we'd have so many women who were like, I'm not trying to get pregnant, but I think there's something wrong with my hormones. Do you have a test for me? And we didn't have anything for them. And so we said, you know what? This is a huge need and it's not being paid attention to enough. There's a lot of miseducation in this space. Let's create a product that educates and empowers women to have that ownership, that shared ownership in their health journey.
Which is so cool. I mean, you guys have been, phenomenal and really a pioneer and visionary in this space. But it's interesting because there's so much misinformation out there and there's so many conflicting opinions. I know for a fact that the National Menopause Society is pretty vocal about being against hormone testing and supplements. What sets Proves hormone testing apart and what they're advocating for? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so the first thing is there's not enough research to know the right answer. And that is the truth. Like, women haven't been part of clinical studies. And when we are part of clinical studies, we have to be on birth control or postmenopausal. So we don't know how hormones impact anything. Research was analyzed wrong, and people are deathly afraid that HRT is going to cause cancer, which has been debunked, but people still believe that. There's just not enough education at all. So anybody who's like, this is the truth, you can't X or you can only Y, is wrong. Like, that's just wrong. And so, but the main reason why the National Menopause Society has said that hormone testing, you shouldn't do it, is because they're specifically talking about identifying if you are in menopause or are in perimenopause, that it's not a reliable test. And that is 100% true, because if you get a single blood test, you know on that one day what your hormone levels are, but what causes the symptoms and what is the issue is how the hormones fluctuate and how their ratios across time and how affects different symptoms. And so you can't capture that in a blood test. And so they say, like, hormone testing is not good, don't do it. They're right, they're seeing the issues. So we came and we're like, okay, we're going to use urine, so it's non-invasive, you can do it at home. We're going to measure 4 times in your cycle when the hormone levels are supposed to be high. We're going to look at the patterns. We're going to tell you what you are according to optimal, how it correlates with your symptoms, and we're really going to help dive deep into what's going on, like a window into your hormones, to see what's going on. That is a much more valuable test, and you can't just blanket say no testing. And that's actually, they do thyroid testing, they do calcium testing, they do a whole bunch of testing in menopause. And then the supplement stuff is interesting too. They're like, there's no evidence base that it works. And I'm like, well, go on Amazon and look at all the 5-star reviews. I think that's pretty good evidence that it works.
Weird. Big pharma might be getting in the way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious more about your test, right? So you said you get a pee stick, you pee on it. Do you have 4 within the kit that you get to kind of look, or 3, or tell me kind of a little bit more about the test and how that looks for a woman, and then what somebody might get? Like, what typically surprises women the most that they didn't even realize were off when they get these tests back? I'm sure you hear some feedback from people.
Yeah, yeah. So the way that works is we send you a little box, and inside of it, first you have to download the free app. And when you download it, you onboard. We ask you what your age is. Are you on hormones? Are you on supplements? How long your cycle is? Is it regular? All kinds of different questions, what symptoms you have, all that stuff. So we can build a personalized protocol for you. And so once we get in there, we build it out and we test 4 different times in the cycle, and it's depends on if you have a cycle or if you don't have a cycle, where are you in your cycle? But what we're trying to do is capture when hormones are at its peak or supposed to be at its peak to tell you, yes, you're still making estrogen or you're still making progesterone, or no, you're not. And then we correlate that to symptom levels. People are shocked that, first of all, they didn't even know they had these hormones or what they do, or that they couldn't make them anymore. But then, at the end, you give a report and it's either premenopause, perimenopause, or menopause. And so it's like this little dial of like where you are. And then the second factor is, what are your hormones doing? And that is, do you have any imbalances, deficiencies? And that's where a lot of people are surprised at what they're seeing. And there's women in their late 30s who are convinced they are in perimenopause, and they take our test and we're like, you're not in perimenopause, but you absolutely have a hormone imbalance. And so trying to separate out the two, where it's like, it's not perimenopause yet, but you have a hormone imbalance. I mean, like 1 out of 10 women have PCOS, 1 out of 10 women have endometriosis. I don't know what the number is for thyroid, but that's another, thing, that Hashimoto's, like, that affects your hormones. So you can have a hormone imbalance that may or may not be perimenopause, and that is shocking to them, where we have to like dissect that for them. And then we give them personalized recommendations based off of their hormone levels. And so that is, I think, the secret sauce to it is, it's not, nobody wants to test. They want to test to feel better. They want to get the solution. And so we give 3 options. One is lifestyle. It's blackout curtains, don't use screens an hour before bed, stuff like that.
Don't hang around with assholes anymore.
Get a divorce. I mean, the second one is supplements. There's a lot of supplements that work if you have that hormone profile, and there's supplements that don't work if you don't have the right hormone profile. And so we separate our supplements according to, this one supports healthy estrogen production if you don't have optimal estrogen levels, or this one promotes healthy progesterone levels if you don't have optimal progesterone levels. We don't like put everything in the same formula. We bucket it out to what your hormones are doing to give you those personalized recommendations. So there's supplements, and then we connect with HRT clinics and people that can prescribe medications, and educate them. Look, your estrogen's low. Here's someone to give you estrogen.
Yeah.
But we realize that women have different needs and desires. Our particular consumer, 87% of them want supplements and only 13% want HRT. We don't really understand why, but it's interesting. I mean, we want to be there with whatever. We're not going to say you have to do HRT or you have to take my supplements. It's about options.
There's so much value that you guys are providing, and I really appreciate the comprehensive approach that you're taking in this testing with your modalities of asking questions and the cadence of testing that you're doing, and understanding the lifestyle and different variables that could impact into where your hormone levels are. So I appreciate that so much. Secondarily, I appreciate the information that you're giving them from a lifestyle perspective and an actual medical resource. But what I most appreciate, Amy, about what you guys are doing is the validity and giving these women the understanding that they're feeling seen and heard. It's almost like they're being validated after struggling for so many years and feeling dismissed from so many physicians, and thinking in their head and worrying and the anxiety that comes along with, am I going crazy? Like the breath of fresh air, or the just deep breath of being able to see the results, like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You hit it on the head. Like, we did consumer interviews, and the 2 things we heard was my doctor wouldn't do testing, or all the testing came out normal. It's like, but I still feel horrible, and they won't address the symptoms. And so, yeah, it's very validating, and it's very, again, empowering to have this information and to have ownership and education that you weren't provided.
Yeah. And the other challenge in the industry, if you go through your typical testing modalities, you have these ranges, right? Like an average woman has a range of this progesterone level. you fall within, mid-range. Well, we as women have been trained to basically accept mediocrity as it pertains to our hormones. So I appreciate the fact that you're giving insight into we don't have to accept and just feeling, medium size, right? Maybe we could do things to optimize our health and optimize our hormones so we're at the lower or higher end of wherever we need to be to actually feel like the queenagers that we deserve to be, because we are fucking queens and that's how we should be treated.
Yeah, I mean, women don't respond to the same hormones the same way. So, I mean, think about how hundreds of different types of birth control there are, is because women don't respond to hormones the same. And so, like, having a single dose of HRT is not sufficient for every single woman. And so, it's a matter of knowing what your optimal level is, what your normal is. And that's when your symptoms are gone. And so, it's not a one size fits all. And so, having data where you can say, oh, my levels are this, and I feel the best when they're at these levels, and titrating or, managing it so that your symptoms are gone, like, that's so powerful. And so, I'm a firm believer in personalized HRT as opposed to just, whatever the FDA approved one version is, because it's not a one size fits all.
What gets me a lot is social media these days. Even these teeny bopper influencers are packed with advice for perimenopausal women, as a 22-year-old who's running around in her crop top and chewing on ice cubes and weighs, 110 pounds. But aside from that, there's a lot of myths and misconceptions out there. What are some that you most commonly see and that you really want to set straight?
Let's see, I've already talked about a few. There is no right answer. Nobody has the God honest truth when it comes to menopause, and anybody who says this is it is lying to you because they don't know. There is no single dose of HRT. You don't have to wait until you're postmenopausal to start HRT. Don't need to ever stop HRT. You can start with progesterone and then go into full HRT. There's so many different options. It's not a rigid system. It's whatever works best with you and who you are. And you can get educated and you can listen, but there's so many different options that you need to find someone who's going to work with you and get you to that feeling of normal. You do not have to live with symptoms of menopause. I think it was the MIDI maybe coined this. It's like menopause is required or unavoidable, but feeling like shit is. Like, you don't have to feel like shit when you're going through it. And so you never settle, don't think that this is just your lot in life. You just got to like power through it. Like, bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. One thing I love about what you offer and, something that we're trying to get launched so we can eventually offer this to people as well is that after you get your test results, you actually give them information that they can take and use to make changes to really ratify or change what's happening with their hormones. Can you walk through some of the other information that you provide to women? I know you said getting a divorce, but in all honesty, do you provide nutritional, supplemental, like kind of walk us through what some of the information you provide women so they know what they could be getting out of this test?
Yeah, there's a line between like being a diagnostic test and then offering the treatment. And so we do really, really good diagnostic testing, and we have buckets of data and information and, just data curves and stuff like that. That's our lane. We do really, really well in that. We lean on partners to provide the coaching, the one-on-one consults, the prescriptions, this and that. But we try to foster that connection where we're teaching those practitioners, those healthcare providers, how to use the product. Most of our recommendations are like products we believe in, other companies that are doing well. We want to partner with good people to pass them on to someone that can help. I think it takes a village, and I'm only one person. And so, how can I best do what I am really, really good at and empower other people to do what they're really, really good at?
Well,
Yeah,
that's why you're partnering with us, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yes, very exciting news and more to come on this, but Hot Flash Health and Prove are partnering for a solution. So really excited about that. But, Amy, you have so many of these diagnostics and you have so much data. and you have so much insight into this. With the crazy world of AI these days, how is Prove, or what is your opinion or vision as to how AI can help with some of these modalities and help us better understand and better diagnose and offer more support in this?
Yeah, I mean, going back to like, there is no test for menopause, and we wait 10 years to diagnose PCOS, and you have to have a surgery to diagnose endometriosis, like all this stuff. There's so much power and just diagnostic power in your hormones that nobody's uncovered because it's been too hard. You can't do a single blood test at a doctor's office. And so they just said, oh, we can't do it. And it's like, well, you can, you just can't do it that traditional way. And so it's taken companies like us that monitor hormones and collect that data and then use AI to find patterns and to correlate things. So like on our back end, we have different patterns that suggest that someone has endometriosis or PCOS. We don't have it live yet, but we're building the information and the data set so that we can use it as such a more powerful tool, because women don't typically go in until they're so frustrated, they're at the brink of jumping off some cliff, or they're just so almost like at the point of collapse before, they can either get help or they seek help. And so if we can be as early of a tool of a diagnostic as possible, and so there's so much power in it. Here to help women. It's always been about helping women. Women have complete ownership of their data. If they ever want to delete their account, they can. If we ever want to use it for clinical studies or whatever else, we pay women for their data and we ask them, can we use this? We'll pay you. I just think it's the right thing to do. There's just so many like free apps out there, and nothing's free in this world. You're just paying with your data as opposed with your dollars. It's a company built by women for women, and that's it. We just want to empower women.
No, I love that. I love that. And actually that you pay for people's data. That's great too. Cause like you said, there's a lot of people who just steal it. I'm
Or
getting
it's like
ads all the time.
like buried in the terms, like if you want to use our product, you must click this box, and by clicking this box, we own you.
Totally. Well, what's, we're looking into 2025 right now. It's crazy. Like, where did 2020 go? But what changes are you seeing in how women approach perimenopause, menopause, and what's on the horizon for Prove? Like, how are you going to evolve to meet all these needs that we have now?
I love that the conversation around menopause has started and that people are talking about it. And unlike fertility, where nobody would talk about it, you say the word menopause to somebody, it starts a whole conversation, and you're not leaving for 30 minutes because you're just talking about this. Oh my God, that, no, no, no. And it's like people are passionate about it. They're curious. They're not ashamed of it. We all go through this. If they did something that can help me, I want to know. I want to talk about it. So it's really cool to see that women are doing that. I agree that there are some influencers on TikTok that are not educating the right way, and they think that they're in menopause at 21, but they're still at least starting the conversation, starting to educate. I mean, I have been talking about the luteal phase for like 10 years. And all my marketing people are like, you can't call it the luteal phase. Nobody knows what that is. Now it's like everybody knows the luteal phase. Like, thank you, TikTok. I appreciate you. You finally did something right.
So share with our listeners who don't know what the luteal phase, what that is.
Yeah. So in the menstrual cycle, you have two halves, and it's bookend by ovulation. A ovulatory cycle takes a whole cycle, typically 28 days. That's, I guess, average or normal, whatever. But it can vary. In the first half, you make estrogen and it develops an egg. Then you ovulate, and then you make progesterone the second half. And so you're estrogen dominant first half, progesterone dominant. And you want to have the healthy balance to balance each other out. So it's like you have this strong signal, and then it's counteracted by the second one. And so if they're off like this, then that can cause symptoms. Or if you're not making this, but you're making this, or whatever, it causes symptoms. So the luteal phase is after ovulation. Your ovary releases the egg and makes the corpus luteum. And now it's the luteal phase where you're making progesterone. So it's just the second half of your cycle, the last 14 days of your cycle. It's when implantation happens. If you don't have enough progesterone, it's really hard to implant and stay pregnant.
See it, ladies? She's smart. She's cool. She talks about the luteal phase.
I mean, and she created an amazing business for all of us. Like, kudos to you, Amy.
I think, Amy, there's a market market out there based upon all these phases and based upon all of, our hormones, where we're at, to make like
There's a
sex drive
huge market.
sticks. Like, hey,
Yes, there's a huge, huge market on it's called like cycle syncing. It's coined by Elisa Vitti, the hormone woman code. Cycle syncing, working with your cycles. Like you should only do important work things in your follicular phase. So before ovulation, when you have more energy, you should only run marathons in your ovulatory phase, and you should like only do yoga, whatever phases. You should eat certain foods to nourish different hormones. And so there's this whole thing with maintaining a healthy cycle by syncing with your cycle and eating, and it's very hard to do. But there's a lot of people are interested in it. The problem I have with it is they automatically assume you have a normal cycle and they tell you what to do off of this automatic normal cycle. I'm like, well, how do you know she actually has estrogen right now?
yeah.
Or that you don't have an IUD in, because I'm like, I haven't had a period in 15 years, I'm like, oh. I always like that question. I'm like, I don't know.
Corey, you and I should start scheduling our social engagements. Like, I'm sorry, my menstrual cycle is not at its optimal time to have like really
Wine night with girls.
or my tennis match. Like, excuse me, 70-year-old lady who crushes me every time. My luteal phase is not optimal right now. And so it turns out that I might lose my tennis match to you.
Can you imagine? Sorry, I can't come into work today.
I'm going to cancel my progressive dinner and tell them that my hormones are not optimal to make a progressive appetizer for them.
Well, I'm sure some people do talk like that. They're probably like, look, my not
And no
us.
offense to those people.
Yeah, no offense. No offense. You're
They're
smarter than
probably
I am.
more productive than I, and their appetizers are probably much better. Talked a lot about this, but lastly, if you have advice for women navigating perimenopause, what would it be? And don't hold back.
I mean, listen to your body. If you have the symptom, don't stop until you can finally get them relieved. Follow your intuition. Women's intuition is almost always right, or it heads you in the right direction. So if you walk in and like that person is totally wrong, go get a second opinion. If you walk into a place and they're trying to sell you $10,000 worth of hair analysis and poop things and stuff like that, and you're like, I don't know about this, just walk back out. You do what you want to do. Don't stop. Talk to your girlfriends, figure out what's worked for them. Don't listen to anybody who says that they know the real answer on menopause, because nobody does. I don't. Nobody does.
Yourself an Empower perimenopause test kit, $69. You can save yourself lots of money and get the answers. Tell us where we can find you, because perimenopause tests are not, you don't stop there. You guys have sperm tests, you have all of the tests. So give us a high level overview of what we can find with Prove and where to find you and all of that good stuff.
So our website is provetest.com, PROOV test.com. You get on the homepage and there's either fertility or perimenopause. You choose your journey. We have all our products there. We're also on Amazon. I mean, who doesn't like Amazon Prime? Gets there faster than I can get home from work sometimes. We have some of our fertility kits at Walgreens and CVS. And then we really, really love to educate on Instagram. So the fertility side is Prove Test, PROOV Test. And then the perimenopause side is Prove Peri. And we like to keep them separate because everyone's going through a different journey, and we want you to make sure you're comfortable with where you're at. If you're trying to conceive, you don't want to hear about menopause or vice versa. And then we have Facebook support groups. So like Prove support group, whatever, you can like put it in the search thing. But we're a safe place to talk about anything, everything. That's where to find us.
Well, thank you, Amy, so much for being on today. We're so honored to have you and just share your wealth of information and knowledge, and for creating this kit for women who are going on both of these journeys. I know with your own personal struggles, it must have been so frustrating and, just challenging. And I'm glad that you took that and turned it into something great for all of us women moving forward, so we don't have to go through what you went through. And now with most of us hitting perimenopause and menopause, we need as much help and guidance as we can get, because like you said, nobody has the answers. We certainly don't, but we're trying to educate everyone as best as we can, right?
For all of our listeners out there, we need your support. Hot Flash Health needs your support. Proof needs your support. We need to start having more conversations and really continuing down this path. So subscribe, support, follow us on social media. These type of conversations just really help open up the vulnerable ones that help other women, and we need to make the change. So thank you.
All right. Well, I will say that's a wrap on today's episode. Remember, menopause may be a wild ride, but together we've got this. And as Dawn just mentioned, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, anywhere. I don't think we're on Snapchat yet, but our handle is at Hot Flash Health, and stream and subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Share your thoughts with us at any time. We love hearing from our fabulous listeners. And until next time, stay sassy, stay fabulous, and keep those hot flashes in check. Bye.